Hello, welcome back to Al Talks, episode number 3, where I was planning to split it up into two episodes, but I figured out that that's not, there's not enough content to make it into two, so I'm going to put it was supposed to be episode 3 and 4, I'm going to put them together and just make it into episode 3 because the second time I did stand up, um, it didn't really work out. What happened was I was at one of my friends runs an open mic in the town that I live, and I started going there. Um, but was maybe going there for about 2 years or so, about a year and a half, 2 years, and I used to perform their music with actually Kieran, who's in the band Plastic Cowboys, who I'll have later on the show, and after I had done my first set in August, I didn't do my second set in the Battle of the Axe till it was February the 13th. So my first one, that's 2020 now, because the first set was in August 22nd, 2019. But I did do, I attempted to do a set at an open mic in my local town. So that night we had it's an open mic, but it's mainly musicians. The odd time we get somebody reading poetry or the likes, but it's mainly musicians. But it is open to everybody because it's been an open mic. So I went up that night. There was a lot of musicians, and I was going up last, so there's not a problem. I'm well used to this at this stage. And I get up to do my set. I hear a knock on the door, and it was the guards. They were like, "Come on, everybody out, lock up." So that didn't go to plan. I maybe started doing my set about 2-3 minutes in, so that didn't go well. So on the 13th of February was the second time going up to Battle Axe. Actually, two of my friends went. They asked them to come. From what I remember, the crowd was a lot smaller than the first time I performed. Look, the place itself isn't very big, but this crowd was very small. I think it was maybe, I don't know, maybe 12, 13 people there roughly. It was, 3 or 4 tables. Usually it's packed a bit more. For me, that wasn't a problem. So I get there, to my friends in there as well. Actually, one of the guys used to perform music with Kieran, who's in the band Plastic Cowboys. He was there, and another one of my friends, Killian. So I think it was, from what I understand, from what I remember, I think it was second last going up that time. So we get there, and I got there. I think it was about maybe 9:30, 9:45, roughly. I was sitting there listening and looking at all the acts, and then it's my turn to go up, and I expected to get. Actually, in the last episode I mentioned how I'd reworked the joke because I didn't think the way I said it worked. So between August and this set that I'd done in February of next year, I decided to say the rework joke. So I got up and I grabbed the microphone and I said to the crowd, that hopefully this set goes better last time, because last time the guards had to break it up. I say this, nothing. The crowd just looks at me in silence. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be bad. So I go on with my set, and nothing, no, hardly any laughs. I developed this kind of joke with a bit of crowd work routine, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, people in the crowd didn't want to participate, and I wasn't getting the response I needed for the premise of the joke to continue. So it's kind of going downhill, and I was like, okay, I'll just leave it, and I continued on. I hardly got any laughs, and but I actually no, that's a lie. The one laugh I did get was the joke that I had to rework. People laughed at that, and I was like, okay, that at least that works now. That's that's refined now, and it sounds good and it's fine. That's okay. So I continued on with the set, and I finished, and I got off, and so I get off the stage, and I was sitting with my friend, so I walk over, and I wait for the last act to come on, and it was an Asian dude, and he gets up on stage, and he's like, "I would like to thank my brother Alex for coming along," and I was like, I'll participate. So I shot her back. I was like, "Oh, don't worry, mom and dad don't think you disappointment," because that's an Asian culture stereotype where Asian parents are always constantly disappointed about their children because they're not doctors. And after the show, he come up to me and goes, "I hope you don't mind me being because we're both Asian calling me brother." I was like, "Dude, there's no problem because otherwise, if I was on before you, I would have done the same thing." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I could get off stage and we're just mingling, talking with other comics, and I got talking to one of the barmen. Like just out of curiosity, I asked him. I said, "You've probably seen a lot of these acts. What could I've done better?" And he said, because as I got talking to him, he explained that he used to help run the open mic. This is years ago, but he stopped. And he said, where you went downhill was at the start, where you doing the crowd work thing, because they're there to be the people that are in the audience. They're there to be entertained. For them, this is an entertainment. There is there is aspects of crowd work you can do, but he said the main thing is they're there to be entertained, and they don't particularly want to be answering questions, especially if it's a long kind of winded thing that winds. Because the premise for this is I ask people where I'm from, I get all these wrong answers, and then I tell them, and it goes into a bit about how Genghis Khan killed all these people, and they killed so much people that the CO2 levels in the planet actually dropped. And the joke was, oh, Genghis Khan was actually an eco warrior, not a genocidal maniac. So that bit didn't work out, but the only thing I took from that set was the fact that that bit that I'd refined properly worked out. That was the only saving glory of that bit was now complete and ready to go to be used for future purposes the way I'd intended the first time, but it didn't work. But sometimes they don't work. That's why it's good to go to open mics regularly so you can work on the bits. Why comedians, like I've mentioned in the last episode, like Dave Chappelle, they don't like people recording them at open mics or at their shows because, well, one is their intellectual property, first and foremost, and number two is that if a bit is not ready and it gets out, it's essentially ruined. And if they hear the unfinished product, it would be like the likes of iPhone releasing it without the camera fully working. They wouldn't do that. Or not iPhone, sorry, Apple releasing the new iPhone when the camera still doesn't work. It's the same thing. They wouldn't do it. It's just because it's a spoken art, it has to be treated differently. So that was that. And I'm standing there talking to my friends, like, you're not disappointed that it didn't go well? I said, look, these things happen, even to the biggest comedians. The funniest story was on the Joe Rogan podcast, Joey Diaz was talking about how when he started out and being an open micer, that he was doing horribly. And he used to sit there late at night and he used to circle. There was a comedy magazine with all the names of every single club in the US where there was stand-up open mics, and he used to circle all these rooms, and he'd sit there late at night crying, going, one day I'll get to perform there. And eventually, once he became famous. Well, not famous once he got good. He did get to perform at every single place that he had circled. And one of the things he always teaches is persistence. That you have to constantly be going to open mics, and that's how you get better and better. And that actually did show, even though at this stage when I went up to Dublin, it would have been my third time performing open mic. That second set being the one that the guards busted up in the pub, which was at the time not funny, but then later I seen the humour in it. I just wished the crowd at my third set would have seen it too, but you can't have it all, I suppose. So that was that set. I genuinely, it was, like I said, it was a good experience. There was no point whining about how, you know, could have been better with the crowd, but now it was the crowd. Sometimes it's just you. The material, maybe they found it funny, maybe they didn't. Well, obviously didn't find it funny, didn't laugh, but I was happy to get the advice from the barman and people who were trying to help me. Like my two friends that were there, they were shouting at answers, and I was like, that, like, turn around to them. I was like, that doesn't count, you know me, because I was trying to kind of re-engage with the crowd, but it wasn't working. But I did change tact, and I instead of asking the crowd where they think I'm from, nowadays I just go and just I'd say at the very start. Makes it a lot easier on them and on me, not having to go through that whole fiasco again, which was very unpleasant. Well, it was unpleasant, but it was also a learning experience. And like I've said, I've always gotten so much support from everybody there that the open mic, whether it be other comedians or that time being the barman or Tony who runs the thing. I remember one time actually, this would have been before my second set up there. I went in there just as a spectator, and that day was an improv group was there, and at the very end I got talking to the guy who runs it, and he said if I wanted to join it was absolutely no problem. Yeah, he gave me his contact details straight away, and he said the reason that they're up there, everybody was doing the improv today was how they graduate the class, is they have to do an improv set in front of a crowd. Is basically his graduation from the class, which now I haven't been to it yet because I don't live in Dublin, but it's something I will definitely consider in the future, because how he was running the improv is he gets two people to go up and they have 30 seconds and the crowd shouts out two kind of, he sets up a premise. For example, he says their kids going on a trip from, I need a city or a place or a town, and they are doing a name an activity, and from that 30 second, they both people have 30 seconds each to come up with a premise and basically just make it funny from those two different things. It's very, very entertaining to see, because some of them are very difficult, you know, when you only have 30 seconds to come up with something funny, and it's pretty much on the spot. That's what improv is. So hopefully in the future, when this pandemic clears up and everything else, we could see a return of stand up again, especially going up to the Battle of the Axe again. And maybe I will be talking about an improv set later on in the show. We'll see how things pan out, because currently it's not the best conditions. But that is it. That is episode 3. I will be back next week with episode 4, which has been my best set to date. And we will talk about that then. Bye.